Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be watching a video called Traffic Calming is Everywhere in the Netherlands. I don't know what that term means, like traffic calming? Like, what is that? I have no idea if that's the thing that I'm supposed to know or if it's just like a Dutch thing. I have no idea. Start.
Traffic calming in the Netherlands is a huge topic. Whole books have been written about it, like this one. But to me, Dutch traffic calming isn't just about the techniques that are used. That's interesting, but it's almost secondary. What's really remarkable about the Netherlands is that traffic calming is everywhere.
Okay, but what is it?
Where I've lived in Canada and in the US, traffic calming is only applied if there's enough demand for it. If enough people have died at a specific location or enough people complain about it long enough, then traffic calming might be considered. For example, Toronto has this convoluted warrant system through which you need to prove that traffic calming is truly required and won't put too much of a burden on those poor drivers.
Is it like slowing down?
Even after all this process, traffic calming in Canada is extremely minimal. Yes, this street is traffic calmed. Somebody went through that whole warrants nonsense to get this. Last summer, I was visiting the neighborhood where I grew up and saw this. The first sign says, traffic calm neighborhood. The second sign says, 50 kilometer per hour speed limit. Like, seriously?
Okay, yeah, they're complete opposites.
This two-way residential road is 10 meters wide, and the quote, traffic calming is nothing but a few speed bumps. There's no one-way streets, raised crossings, continuous sidewalks, rough road surfaces, narrowed lanes, chicanes,
because there's so many things.
Street cuts, or anything else. This tells you all you need to know about traffic calming in Canada.
It's non-existent.
Compare that to the Netherlands, where traffic calming is baked into the National Road Safety Guidelines.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you're in a major city or in a village, if you're near the city center or in a suburb. All streets are required to follow the same national guidelines. It's still possible to find streets that are not traffic calmed, but that will usually only happen if the street hasn't had a redesign in the past few decades. When major construction work is done, a street will be brought up to the latest design standards, traffic calming included. Consider this crossing. Here, an arterial road meets a crossing with two minor residential streets. The two streets are cut so that cars cannot go from one to the other, but cycling between the two is still permitted.
Oh, yeah, it's allowed.
On the road, the lanes are narrowed by the introduction of a median and visual cues showing that there is a crossing. And of course, there's a continuous sidewalk and cycle path on both sides of the street. This street is in Ermelo, a village of 27,000 people. And this single crossing in Ermelo probably has more traffic calming than just about any street in Canada, and likely the US too.
Yeah.
These big differences in street design come from the drastically different approaches taken by these countries. In the US and in Canada, streets and roads are judged on level of service. Each street is assessed primarily by its capacity to carry cars.
Yeah.
In the US, a grade is applied from A through F, depending on how smoothly traffic flows in the street. Traffic calming can work against this goal, so it will only be permitted if it does not significantly affect level of service.
Cars, yeah.
This is why streets in the US and Canada look like highways, even in city centers.
What do you mean they look like highways?
In the Netherlands, a very different approach is taken. In the 1990s, a policy called sustainable safety was introduced, which is interesting and deserves its own video at some point.
Yeah, what is it?
One of the assumptions of sustainable safety is that humans will make mistakes, so the road itself is designed to protect people and be consistent, to make it easier to do the right thing. A local access road is designed so that most people will naturally drive the speed limit, slow down at crossings, and be aware of other road users,
as it should
without
be.
being explicitly told to do so. This consistent road safety approach makes a huge difference when traveling around the Netherlands. Unlike in Canada, I know that just about wherever I go in the country, I will never have a problem crossing the street. I will never feel worried being outside of a car.
Yeah, like where's the crosswalk?
I will never be anxious to walk somewhere. And I'm a lot less concerned about my kids being out in the street as well. Traffic calming can get very technical, so it's easy to get bogged down in the details.
Okay.
But a consistent, safety-first approach to road design can make a measurable difference to how it feels to walk or to cycle around the city. And for our family, that ultimately means a better quality of life here in the Netherlands.
Is he on a bike? Okay, so traffic calming, I think I sort of understood as it went along. I don't think I've ever heard that term before, but I get it. It's like when you like slowing down anything. Basically, I think that's what it means. I think because I saw like also you can do it like in roundabouts as well, like anything that like it's not on highways. In highways obviously you speed, well, not to your heart's content, but it's you have a speed limit, but you're less worried like there's like going to be pedestrians or cyclists or something else. But in avenues and streets, I think it's obviously you need to do so because again there's going to be more people that are not in cars, and you have to be more mindful of that. And I think that's why this practice is used, from what I could understand. And it's basically just, you want the car to slow down, but it's not telling you that, it's not like a stop sign that's telling you like, oh, you stopped the car completely. No, it's just for you. It forces you to basically, like all those raised bumps, and I think or continuous, like they say, like continuous sidewalks that I don't think I've seen them in Europe, but I don't think they're common in other places. And they're meant for you, like if you're driving a car, obviously you're going to have to like slow down. Well, if there's someone passing through, obviously if there isn't anyone, then obviously you can just, continue. But I think it's a way to slow down traffic without resorting to traffic lights and stop signs, which I think it's quite like it makes sense because like stop signs are more, you have to like stop and even, just like, oh, look around, there's no one. Although I think most people, when you're driving, you don't actually like pay that well. You obviously you do pay attention. But it's like stop signs. If you're like seeing, if you're driving and you're seeing like there's no one, of course you're just going to ignore the stop sign because it's like there's no one here. But with traffic lights, also I think traffic lights are obviously they're important, they're good, but I think it really does depend on, and I know there are some smart like traffic lights that do really like they're adjusted depending on rush hour, or because again if you have you are going to have more traffic at different times of the day, and some of them, but I don't think I don't know how common they are actually, but they do this thing where it's like, well, during rush hour, if they know like this road gets more traffic, obviously they're going to adjust the thing, and then during rush hour, like that's you're going to have the priority. But I don't think that's like that great of a solution. And I think in something like this, like traffic calming, apparently, I think it's probably better. It's kind of sad that he was saying, like, I think in Canada, which I think it's where he's from, so that's like his main point of reference. It's like only if enough people die. It's like, oh, okay, so if enough people are run over by cars in this intersection, then they introduce this traffic calming situation, which I think is insane. But I think probably, yeah, I think some more streets should do so, and I really do like it if I'm understanding it correctly. Although he said like there's a lot of things that you can introduce to in order to do this. Like it doesn't always have to be like the raised platforms. It can be roundabouts. I think they can be like, it's just in the street design. And that's what he said, like it can get very technical because I think it depends on how viable like the solution is depending on the street and on the avenue, because it's not going to be the same in every single street, in every single city, in every single country. But there are some measures. I do really like the fact, something he mentioned, like the policy of, I can't remember like the exact policy, but he was like they introduced in the Netherlands, that it was like because they really do like the starting point is that people make mistakes, which is like, yes, of course, because a lot of like, I think most of the accidents and when car crashes happen, or when people like they unfortunately, well, it is a car crash as well, like someone hits over a pedestrian. It is, obviously it's a crash, but it's not always like, well, yeah, obviously like most times it's not like the car's fault, like unless like, oh, my brakes went out or something. Like it's always going to be human error. Like that's most of the car crashes. So it is like you have to assume that people may make mistakes yes, obviously you don't want to make a mistake. People should, when they're driving, they should obviously be aware of their surroundings. And I think for the most part, people are. But again, people are human and they do make mistakes. So it's like they're counting on you. Like, yes, it's normal. We're not gonna fault you for it, but we do have to be careful. So we're counting on people, people are gonna make mistakes. And that's why we have to find a solution in order to mitigate this. And I like it because it's like, yeah, I've always thought of that before. Like this, I always like my mentality is always like people, other drivers, no one's paying attention. It's like, I think that's like defense driving. I think that's sort of like the term. And it's not like you're always going to be like, oh my God, someone's like, no one's paying attention. No, but I think you really do have to, like, you're constantly, like, you're thinking, you always have to assume like maybe the other person is distracted, and that's why you have to be like more careful when you're driving, and because you're like that person's probably distracted. And I think that's maybe, and if we all drive that way, obviously it's going to be perfect, but that's usually not the case. But I think it's sort of like those are maybe like the same mentality of like, again, it's mistakes. People are human. People make mistakes because they're human. So you have to introduce other options and other elements that really do try to include more, try to like increase the safety. Because again, like, how much safe can you be? Like, we already have like smart cars that can drive themselves and stuff. So it's like, well, the roads, it's where you as the government, and that introduces new policies, can actually like do something about this. But yeah, I like it. I like that sort of policy that they have, and hopefully, I don't know if it's done in other countries, but they should definitely they should do that in other places, because I think it seems to be working. And at least like the logic of it's like, yeah, definitely, you've sold me on it. So I'm like, yeah, how come like the whole world doesn't really do it like that? Because I'm like, yeah, sure, like we should all do this. But yeah, incredibly interesting term. I feel like I've learned, I now know what is traffic calming, but actually I would actually love to know more about this, because I'm not that sure if I understood the term correctly. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.